Hey guys, welcome back to Sparks and Recreation. In today's video, we're going to talk about the number one thing I'm asked about our Make It or Break It series. So if you go through all the comments on every one of our 10 times that we've done this, so if you don't know, Make It or Break It is I buy a car sight unseen across the country, hours away. We've done it 10 times now with 10 different vehicles. We show up, get it running, and then attempt to drive it home as a family, kind of like a roadkill, vice grip garage, that type of style of video, just our version of it here at Sparks and Recreation. The number one question I get is, how much did you pay? What'd you do with it? And how much you sell it for? Have you made money on these vehicles? Well, we're going to go through episode 1 through 10 real quick. It's probably going to take about 20 minutes, so if you want to hang in here, you're going to get a quick story of each vehicle, how much I paid for it, how I found it, what ended up going wrong on our trip home, if anything, and how much I sold it for. So let's get into it. All right, boys and girls, episode 1, 1961 Volkswagen Beetle that I was lied to about its condition. So in these pictures and videos, it looks pretty stellar. It's a 1961, so it's a true German Beetle. It's not one of the Mexican ones. And they're worth way more money than the newer ones. Like a Super Beetle is basically worthless in the Beetle world. These German ones are worth a lot of money. The guy listed it up online. He wanted like 10 grand, and I, at the time, thought he was nuts. I was like, dude, there's no way I'm paying that. I'll give you 4 grand. We argued back and forth. I got it for $6,000. We drove a car out there with a car dolly because he says it runs, but I didn't really trust him. Again, Beetles are not known for being reliable. So we thought this was going to be the defining make it or break it moment of not just the series calling it make it or break it or the YouTube channel itself. We're going to go all in. We spent a ton of money, 12 days, going across country, taking Route 66 with my family in this Beetle. It broke down 5 times. We got stranded in snowstorms. It was a wild adventure. We knew it wasn't going to go well because as soon as we pulled up, the dude hands me the keys and then jumps in a truck and disappears. Like, literally, he hands me the keys and he's like, all right, I'm out of here. Have fun driving it home. I'm like, okay. So my buddy and I, we get it running. The throttle's sticking. We basically spent a whole day in a Walmart parking lot just making it so it was drivable. One thing that we could not fix, no matter what we did, and all the times we broke down, we still had to deal with it, was the actual transmission the mount was broken from where it goes the unibody on these cars. So every time you let up the clutch, it would actually lurch the tranny and motor forward enough to pull the throttle cable. So as you let up the clutch, the car starts lurching and hitting the gas for you. No matter what you did, as you let up, so basically, if there's a car in front of you in stop and go traffic, as soon as you let that clutch up at all, it floors it and starts driving towards that car. There's also no way to stall it. I stalled it a couple times because I had it in the wrong gear, but if you put it in first gear and just let up the clutch, it would automatically hit the gas for you, which I thought was maybe some kind of feature on these German Beetles. Turns out it's not. It was broken. The bright moment of this video was that through all the investment, and we didn't make money in the end, really, because of the cost of hotels and travel and everything, but I did wholesale this car for $10,000, which was a huge win for us because we put a lot of money into this hoping it would take off, and it never really did. I think the biggest video of the series only has like 10,000 views, which is sad because we thought, hey, we're going to invest this money and it's going to just pay off. But YouTube is so hard. Everybody knows YouTube is hard, but until you actually try it, it's so difficult to make quality, engaging videos that people give a crap about. And we're still struggling trying to figure that out. But so that's episode 1. Now on to episode 2. All right, so this brings us to mighty episode number 2. I'm going to be YouTube famous. Or not. This is probably the most disappointing video that I have in the 10-part series of doing Make It or Break It. I thought for sure that people would care about this truck because I could not make it to any parking lot or gas station with this thing without somebody offering me money for it. So I thought for sure, I was like, the thumbnail is going to draw people in, but nobody really cared. I think this video still only has like 2,000 views like 4 years later. So we waited about 6 months. We found this truck on Backlot Cars, same as the other one. It was at a Range Rover dealership, and I negotiated with the guy. I paid $6 grand for it. I didn't want to pay that, and he seemed awfully happy to hand me the keys, because as I got there to pick it up, he tells me a story that some kid wanted a Range Rover. He had his dad's old farm truck. They had just, quote-unquote, restored it, and he gave him nothing for it. So I'm sure he probably gave the kid $2,000 for this thing. He made a bunch of money off me, which I found out very quickly was not going to be an issue because the truck ran amazing. They had just done electronic ignition on it, got it running real good. The one thing they couldn't figure out is why it kept catching on fire. So underneath the dash, like in this video right here, Maggie goes, "It smells like it's on fire." We hadn't even driven a mile. And we found out that he had two heater wires crossed, and instead of wondering what's going on as the fuses blew, he would just wrap a piece of aluminum foil, shove it on a fuse, and put it in anyway, until the point it was like melting the wires. So fixed that about 5-10 minutes, got on the road, and honestly we didn't have a single issue with this truck. It didn't even use or leak oil. Like, we put 1,000 miles on it in a day. Got to the hotel that night, and the next morning got up and there was not a drop of oil underneath it, which if you know anything about old vehicles, that doesn't happen. This truck was amazing. The paint sucked. You can tell that they definitely did it in their backyard with as much flake as possible to cover up how bad they are at painting. But like I said, every gas station, I got offered money on this truck. Every single gas station, no exaggeration. We kept it for about 2 weeks, and I sold it to a guy in Scranton, Pennsylvania for $12,500, which covered the trip and helped cover some of the expenses from the last trip, which was fantastic because we didn't even know if we should do it. So the fact that it had almost no views, whatever, I still made a couple bucks on it. And Sebastian fell in love with trucks on this trip. He would not get out of the truck. Everything we did, he stayed with me the whole time. So that was an awesome time. So now this brings us to episode number 3. We actually waited almost a year in between episodes to film this one, and again, we're making not the greatest decisions. I got tagged in a post on this 1969 Subaru Sambar that was on some obscure Facebook group for like prop vehicles. So as you can see in the video right here, is an abandoned 1960 Subaru Sambar that was used in the History Channel TV show Top Gear. So Rutledge Wood had this van thing made, and initially it had a easy-go golf cart like drivetrain in it, so you could just drive it around and make like little promotional shots for the TV show. It was then sold at a prop auction and abandoned. A guy bought it, put a it's a 2-cylinder 600cc snowmobile engine in it, which we're like, oh, we can get that running and we'll freaking just drive it home. It's only in Rhode Island. That's like not even that far. Well, we got there, got some fresh fuel in it, got it fired up, and we did actually get it running in the guy's driveway, and he was like, his jaw dropped. He's like, I haven't seen this thing run since I bought it, like, and I can't believe you just got it running. So we threw it on a dolly. We're like, we'll go to the closest gas station, fill it up, and we'll just drive home. It's gonna be so cool. Well, we're idiots. When we got it running, we actually sucked up a bunch of like debris, clogged up everything, killed the fuel pump. And when we did get it running, then like later at home, we ended up towing it home. This is the only fail video we ever have where we bought something and did not drive it home. We got home, got it running, realized there's a hole in the side of the block of the engine. So we ended up taking our own 600 triple snowmobile engine, put it in it, and got it running. This was a 6-month process of getting this van running. And we actually still have it. I kept this van, and I paid $2,500 for it. I've been offered $10,000 for this van. I ain't selling it. This thing's sick. It does burnouts. We put a whole cooling system in it. Like, the lights work. I actually just got reg for this van, so I'm gonna be able to put this on the road and start making content with it soon. And friends, family, everybody loves it. It goes about 80 miles an hour. So thank you, Rutledge, for abandoning it. And you would think this would make us famous, but it didn't. Again, this I think our video only has about 5,000 views on it. It was an interesting time for sure. For reference, here's a clip of it. To start your sandbar. Important. You take your lawnmower handle. You check your 2-stroke oil in your boat tank. Shut off your smoke alarms. Then you give them hell. We'll go see the car. All right, so here we are, episode number 4, a 1971 Plymouth Valiant 4-door. This one's got a wild story. So I bought this from a auction website again, but it's a different one. This one is primarily for like trade-ins that are newer, cars off lease, and actually rental companies. So like stuff that's only 2-3 years old, like Hertz, Enterprise, those guys. Once they get like 50,000 miles, couple years, they just offload them for nothing, and then they end up on dealers' lots. Well, I'm scrolling that, and there's a 1971 Plymouth, like what the hell? So I throw in a bid. I paid $2,500 for it, and I'm like, wow, I'm in this thing cheap. So I get there. The guy hands me keys, and he goes, oh, this is a wild story. And I'm like, what is it? He goes, yeah, some guy rented a Jeep Wrangler off us, hit something, didn't have full coverage, and normally we'd just charge their card or we'd sue him or whatever the course of action is. They tried to run his card, it was declined. The guy goes, hey, I got this old Valiant, I'll trade you towards part of the issue. So they gave the guy like almost like a $7,000 credit for this thing. And I guess it made him square. They were good. He signed it over. They put it up online. I bought it. Clean title. I show up and it's got a car cover in the back. It's got 2 sets of heads. There's like the car sits funny in all these videos because there's probably 1,000 pounds worth of just parts in the back in the trunk of it. This thing drove awesome. It was the guy's pride and joy. We gassed up in town before we got on the highway. Some guy tells us how he's seen that car in the same guy's driveway for like 20 years. He's been trying to buy it, and it just disappeared one day. He didn't know where it went. I tell him what happened. He's like, that's insane. So, anyways, we make it about halfway home. And the one thing you find when you do these trips is every old vehicle, the electronics in it sucks. We made it not even halfway. We're on the side of the road. The alternator's showing like crazy charge. The voltage regulator goes bad. It catches wires on fire. We rewire part of the ignition at a gas station. We end up making it home the next day, and it wasn't a huge deal. But after I fixed it, I assumed this thing's gonna sell in no time. I paid nothing for it. I put it up for like $7,000. I put it up for $6,000, $5,000, $4,000. I ended up selling this thing for $3,800, which by the time we did the trip, paid for a hotel, food, and gas, I didn't really honestly make any money on it, and it had to sit around for 6 months. Everybody asked me what's wrong with it. When you turn the key, it fired right up, even when it was 10 degrees out. So, am I buying another 4-door Valiant? Hell no. And it was slow as dog shit. It had a single barrel 318 in it. Obviously I bought it. If I bought a different intake and put a 4-barrel on it, it'd wake it up a bit, but this thing was a dog. I was happy to get rid of it, and that's probably the first one that we really have. I lost probably about $1,000 by the time we did the trip, recorded everything, got food, got hotels. So, yeah, that was interesting. The next one was a little more fun. Some recreation, and Merry Christmas. If you're watching this, it's probably either Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, or the day after Christmas, depending on when we get this video put out. This is our newest edition for the Make It or Break It, episode 5. Alright, so episode 5 was one of my favorites because it was local enough my dad was able to spend the whole time with us, kind of just checking it out, driving it, having a good time. And it was a 318 with a 4-speed, which is pretty uncommon around us because we're in upstate New York. All these old trucks there's not a whole lot of 2-wheel drive V8 4-speeds, and especially in the price range. This was at a government auction where they sell like cop cars and different things, and I message him, I'm like, what's up with that thing? And the dude goes, well, honestly, we've been driving around the yard. It runs really good, and there's no rust under it at all. So I throw in a $2,000 bid. We hadn't made a video in a while, and I was thinking, even if I make $500, it's worth it because we need to make some content, try to grow the channel, and I love old Mopars. That's my deal. What a loud vehicle this was. So we showed up, and it's got like these little zoomy headers and an X-pipe, and I swear to God, you'd wake up probably a half hour away from this truck when you start it in the morning. It sounded like a legit race car the whole time we were driving it home. So that was pretty cool. Had a good time. I put it up online just to see what would happen because it shows, like, you see this rust, but there was nothing through at all. Like, there was no rot. And I threw it up for like $4,500. A guy right down the road from me. So this truck I sold to a guy, I think less than a mile from my house. I still see this truck every day when I drive by. And this was 2 years ago. I sold it. I think he paid me, I think I did like $3,800 for it on him. Like, I did it where I made a couple bucks. He was happy. But we got food. We threw a bunch of gas in it. I did have to fill it with coolant, did an oil change. I did a ball joint, a couple small things on it before we got rid of it. So I made about $1,000, which, if you've been keeping track so far, I think that we're up maybe like $5,000 after 5 episodes. And, the government takes quite a bit of that because we claim all this stuff. So we're making a couple dollars, way more than the subscribers and the content has been making, because this video has under 1,000 views still. So it was a good time. The main thing that I took away from it was a fun little short road trip with my father, and we both like old Dodge trucks, so it was pretty cool getting to have him drive me around. And we were horsing on this thing, freaking. Everybody was out Christmas shop. It was right before Christmas, and we were terrorizing everybody with how loud this thing was. It was a really good time, and I would love to do it again with him. Hopefully, in the next little bit, maybe episode 11, we'll bring Dad with us again. All right, this brings us to episode 6, which is probably the most obscure vehicle I've ever bought, and one of the best vehicles I've ever bought, honestly. The story on this is wild. So this was on the same auction site as the Beetle and the Ranger, so it was called Backlot Cars. This dealer, he had a nice little shop down in New York City. This came in on trade somehow or another. He ended up with it, and I think he was high off his rocker. I messaged on, I said, E350 cutaway. That's what the VIN shows. I'm like, send me some pictures of this thing. And he goes, 10 grand buys it. And I about laughed. And I was like, all right, whatever. I forgot about it. Like a month later, this thing's still on that website. And I notice it says no reserve. So that means that whatever you throw up there, like, it's going to sell. There's no floor on it. So I'm like, I think it's worth $1,500 all day. Like, that'd be stealing it. So, like, 2 days go by. I forgot about this thing. I get an email that says, congratulations on your E350 cutaway. So I call Alice. I'm like, hey, what do you think about owning an ambulance? And she laughs at me. And turns out that it was an ambulance, but then it was turned into like a road service for like a town somewhere. So it'd been decommissioned minus all the lights, the sirens, the super annoying PA system, all that was still intact, which was awesome. Only issue we really had with it is it was leaking tranny fluid pretty significantly. I don't know that I think the pump seal on the tranny was leaking. So if you just sat there at idle, it was fine. But as soon as you got like a couple thousand RPM, which luckily it was diesel, it was a 7.3 non-turbo diesel, the slowest vehicle I've ever driven. I had it to the floor trying to get on 90 at one point, and it it just made noise and did nothing. It took literally over a minute to get up to like 80 miles an hour. So you're not gonna go save anybody in any real timely matter, but it was super reliable, ran awesome, other than it was just drip tranny fluid once you got it warm. Sebastian loved this thing. We have so much fun in these videos. So if you've been watching now for about 17 18 minutes, just think of all these road trips I've done with my family, exploring, having all this fun, and we've made a couple dollars doing it. So if the subscribers don't catch up, I really don't care. 'Cause, like, I don't even care about the views that much. It's just so much fun. Sebastian and I were terrorizing every parking lot, turning lights on, doing every illegal thing possible with it. We were on the highway doing rollers with the lights on, using the PA, telling Mom what to do with the camera in the other car. Maggie had just turned 16 in this video, so she got to drive one of the cars for the first time. And I've kind of made it a point in our family that anytime I buy something weird, I make the kids drive it, because unless you've done this stuff, you have no idea. Like, cars drive so much differently throughout the generation. Like, a 60s car drives different than an 80s car. A 90s ambulance drives different than a 90s truck. Like, they're so unique. So I had a lot of fun. What's funny is that when I was trying to buy it, the guy kept telling me how it's going to be a bug out thing and needs 10 grand. When I got rid of it, I sold it to a guy who was going to turn it into some kind of bug out machine, and he ended up paying, I think $3,300 is what we agreed on, and I did all the tax included. I had a hard time selling that thing. That brings us to episode 7, the cheapest classic car that I've ever bought in my entire life. Another one of those situations where the guy was high and I ended up making out. So this was listed on Backlot Cars, same as the Beetle, the Ranger, and the E350 van. This is probably why Backlot Cars doesn't exist anymore, because I've stolen so many vehicles off it. So this is in Ames, Iowa, so about 1,100 miles from home. It goes up on the auction site. The guy's like, thing's solid, runs good, 80,000 miles, needs nothing, $3,500. And I'm like, I mean, that's probably close to worth it just because you can't find a running, driving D100 around here anymore. I'm like, that's probably what I'd retail it for. So say he sells it to me for like $2,000, I'll probably be happy. Well, I put in my $2,000 bid. It sits there for days. Nobody accepts it. Says the seller removed the vehicle. Goes back on, no reserve. I throw $500, see what happens. I get an email 2 days later, you won it. $500, $50 buy fee. We jump in the car and head out to Ames, Iowa. This is a 4-day trip. It took 2 days to drive there, 2 days to drive back. We did have like some commitments, so we had to kind of rearrange because I was not expecting to buy this thing. And Sebastian, like I was saying in the last one, Sebastian was really starting to fall in love with these older trucks. He would not get out of the truck. We just have so much fun playing with goofy shit in it. And I don't know, just when you're road tripping, it's a lot of fun. This truck we got there looked way rougher than it looked in the pictures. Like there's rust everywhere. And I was really concerned that it wasn't even going to start because the battery looked like it's about 10 years old. I put the key in, starts buzzing. I didn't even have to pump the gas. You turn the key, this thing fires right up. We get on the highway. As soon as we got on the highway, I try cruise control. Cruise works. Doesn't lose any fluid. The only issue we had at all is there was none of the electronics inside were working. So the heat worked and things, but like none of the 12 volt. There was no lights behind the dash. We tried fixing it the right way, and we're not successful at all. So we just ended up running a 12 volt right off the battery with a like inline fuse. It is what it is. We made it back. We were able to charge our phones. We were able to get some music going. We hit the world's largest truck stop on the way home. This was really just a big bonding trip with me and Sebastian. And he was telling me as we're going, he's like, I really love this truck, Dad. And when we got home, I put it up for sale. I had a guy offer me $4,000 for this thing. And I actually had to cancel the sale because Sebastian, I got home, said I sold the truck. He was really upset. And he's like, Dad, I absolutely love that truck. I wish I could have it as my first truck. It drives so nice. It has no issues. We drove it 85 miles an hour the whole way home, like just cranking. And it had no issues. So we decided if you work over the summer, I'll sell you the truck. So I actually still have this truck in my yard. Sebastian turned 16 in August. He's been driving it around like every month or so. We take it around the block just to make sure it's good. And he bought it off me for $900. All right, so that brings us to episode number 8, my 1988 Reliant K car with 33,000 original miles, one owner. So I bought this on ACV, which is the biggest like wholesale dealer network probably in existence right now. So a lot of you that are into cars have heard of like Copart and Mannheim and Odessa and these different things. A few years ago, ACV came online, and it's like the biggest online auction house in, I would guess, most of North America. They probably run 10,000 cars a day if I had to guess. Every 5 minutes, there's auctions going off, like all around the country. This was in Voorhees, New Jersey. And what was weird is I paid a lot for this car, actually, because I saw it and I was like, man, where else am I going to find a 33,000 mile K car? I think I paid $3,800 for it with fees, which is more than anybody should pay for a K car, but it was just so ridiculously low miles and looks so clean underneath. Showed up, and it's a payday loan place. Like, you know how they have like the bars on the windows and stuff, and they're like cash now, cash for gold. Next to that, the same owner had a dealership with no cars out front. I pull out back, and some guy's sitting there waiting for me, and he's like, yeah, my boss says you can't leave unless I get some kind of documentation you bought. I'm like, dude, who else is showing up randomly to Voorhees, New Jersey with freaking the no to pick up a K car? Like, it's obviously me, but they were like super sketchy and weird about it. The guy told me that, I don't know how or why, but this little Jewish guy came in, said he's had the car forever, needed to get rid of it, and he took cash for it. They gave him cash. I'm sure they paid less than I paid because they're making money on it. We jumped in it. Everything worked exactly as it should. Had a cracked dash. It drove like a 33,000 mile K car, which isn't the greatest, but it was really nice. And we drove it home. No issues at all. Didn't lose any fluids. Everything was topped off. Like, even the oil was brand new looking. Like, everything was new looking. Like the guy that took really good care of it. I don't know why he did what he did, but I ended up with it. And I drove it home. I think we had it 2 weeks. People were like, there's no way you're gonna get $5,000 for it. I'm like, well, I need to get like $5,000 for it because I have 4 into it plus the trip, so I need to get $4,500. A really cool guy showed up wearing a Mopar hat, wearing a Mopar jacket, told me how he has a Super Bee and all these like really cool old Mopars, and he's like, I'm getting into the 80s stuff. I want something I can bring to the car shows with my Super Bee, and he bought it, and it still is local here. He paid $4,500. Alright guys, episode 9. This is centered around a 1984 Mercedes 300D that I paid $1,500 for, which was about $1,495 too much. An absolute man of culture built this car. If you somehow see this video, kudos. You are my type of dude. General Grabber mud tires. Freaking straight pipe. The injector's obviously like fucking drilled out or something, so it'd get as much fuel as humanly possible. I don't really know a ton about diesels, neither does like Zach. We can fix this stuff a little, but we don't know anything about these cars. The fuel filter is like just barely hanging on, just dumping diesel everywhere. We had to spend about an hour just tightening things up to make it so it was even drivable. But the noises it made, it sounded. No joke. If you hit a stop sign, you just punched it, it would freaking billow this huge black cloud of smoke, and it would sound like 100-mile-an-hour diesel truck coming at you, but it would just crawl like 20 miles an hour by you because it was so heavy, so underpowered, and it was just making noise. You know what I mean? Like it made all the right noises, but it was not fast at all. I think it topped out about 80 miles an hour. All the tires were chopped, and the alignment was off, the wheel was off, had no brakes. The brake booster was fucked up, so like there was no pressure at all. We had to stop way before all the stop signs. It did get 30 miles a gallon. No lie. We filled it up, and it still had a half tank when we got home 5 hours later. This is down in New York City. I bought it on the ACV auction website. Would not start. So in order to get it to start every time, you have to put the key like you're gonna start it, and then just row through the gears until it catches something and it would start. These wipers are obnoxious and barely worked. I don't know, man. This thing, it was a complete dog turd. There was a old lady's seat cushion on top of the seat because if you didn't, the spring would come through and give you a second asshole. Like, it was that type of car. But I loved it. And Zach actually fell in love with it. It was so obnoxious, so loud. Got good gas mileage, and it was fun because you could put it to the floor at all times when you're driving. I'd end up daily driving this thing for about a month, listed it for sale for like $4,000 to see if just some other weirdo like me would be interested. It sat around for a long time until the right dude who lives down the road from me shows up, and he's like, dude, I want this thing so bad. He gave me $2,500 and off it went. And I really do miss this car. I think about it pretty often. That brings us to our latest episode of Make It or Break It, a 1988 Acura Integra RS. This was a weird one because it's a huge investment that I'm never going to get back out of it, and it's such a weird car that we decided to make a Make It or Break It out of it. This was the first car me and Alice ever had together in high school. It was given to me by my aunt. Well, not this exact one, but the exact color, trim, model, everything. Even down to the color of the interior is identical to what we had when we first got together. I found this in Sarasota, Florida. It was still in the showroom of an Acura dealership. It is a one owner with over 100 service records. So you just assume it's going to be fine, and it was. The only thing that it had against it is the AC was not working, and it was 100 degrees. What made this episode of Make It or Break It interesting is that actually Hurricane Helene came through, the one that like devastated all of North Carolina and parts of Florida. We were down in Tampa when that hit. So this video is not so much about the car having an issue as more of outrunning a hurricane and dealing with monsoon rain and crazy wind. We were at a hotel that the power went out of, and we were kind of trapped in the hotel. All the gas stations ran out of gas. Like, this is an episode that is more of like a disaster documentary than an actual car video. It was a little weird. We made it home with absolutely no issue. Like I said, this car was meticulously maintained. I paid way too much for it. So everybody's like, what'd you pay? Like $3,000? No, I paid like $7,000 for this car, and I'll never get it back because so here's the deal. You can go on like Mecum or bring a trailer and find one with less miles, but they're in rougher condition than mine. Mine is in probably the nicest condition mechanically because everything's been replaced. Nothing is 30 years old on this car. And it's been a really good time enjoying it. I've had it since I think October we did this trip. So we were trying to plan our episode 11. What do you guys want to see? What did you enjoy the most? Have you ever even seen any of these videos? Let me know in the comments. Comment, like, subscribe. I'd really appreciate it if we could get some more views on these videos. Like, it's wild that I'll make a video about a minivan having a bad actuator on a door, gets 30,000 views, but a cool video of us going cross-country in a 30-year-old car gets 500 views. It's just wild to me. So if you enjoyed this, give us a sub, share it. Go through and find our playlist with all these old videos, man. Like, my kids have gotten so much older in the 5 years that we've been doing this. It's kind of weird going through and making this. And we appreciate it. Thanks for tuning in. And always, we'll catch you in the next one. Thanks for watching Sparks and Recreation, guys.